Here. Alrighty. Wow, that is one handsome man. Hi guys. How you guys doing? We are on day 4 of the liftoff challenge, everyone. Super excited. Yesterday's training was really powerful. I have had my inbox blown up today from people who haven't gone live in the group yet, but they have been thinking about their purpose. And I've had a lot of people tell me like, Lewis, you opened up my eyes to a lot of things, and I've never looked at things like that before. So I really appreciate the feedback that we're getting. But like I mentioned yesterday, we really want to create a movement, a culture of engagement, a culture of support. And we want you guys to go live. When I say to do the homework and go live in the video, so far we've had a handful of people, but we want more people to start doing that, because honestly, this is a group of entrepreneurs. Everybody in this group is here for a reason. We want to make money. We have a desire to be an entrepreneur, and we're going to get there faster if we hold each other up and hold each other accountable. Plus, we're going to have some prizes at the end of this challenge. And the only way you're going to qualify for the prizes is you have to have done all the units. In the units tab, there's different homework assignments. And if you haven't completed those units, you don't qualify. 2 of the prizes I'm actually using right now in this video. And one of the grand prizes has a $300 value. So if you want to be a participant and qualify for one of those prizes, you're going to have to start going live and just kind of getting engaged in the group. So today's training, the title is called The Story of Desire, okay? It's going to be a 2-part training. I'm going to try to make it as condensed as I can, but we're going to talk about the Life Force 8, which are 8 triggers, okay? 8 desires that are instilled in every single human being that are basically controlled our human desires. Hey, Nikki Cook, I mean, Nikki, guys, if you guys watched her live video earlier today, her video was powerful. And Nikki doesn't even realize this yet, or maybe she does. I'm pretty sure after watching the last couple of days training, she does. But Nikki's going to be a millionaire. Nikki tapped into, in that video that she did, she tapped into a couple things that she may not have even realized. Nikki, you're going to be a millionaire. I hope you know that. I hope that you know that you can tap into what we're going to discuss today, which you started doing already with your video today. You're going to take off. So without further ado, I want to start off by telling you guys an experience, okay? This is to introduce the idea of desire. So about 2.5 weeks ago, okay, I had a gentleman come to my house to talk to me about putting some windows. Okay, I wasn't planning on it. I had discussed with my wife that I will eventually like to put in some windows, because I had read online that when you replace windows in a house, it can increase the value of the house dramatically. Okay, so we had discussed it, but we hadn't really like set up an appointment. We were just kind of discussing it. So one day, this guy's walking around the neighborhood. He knocks at my door and he says, "Hey, I want to take a look at your windows." So I go outside and he says, "Dude, your windows are kind of crap, and I think you should have one of my guys come out here and talk to you about some windows." I was like, "Well, that's funny, because we had actually been discussing that. Go ahead and send your guy over." Okay. So one thing I laugh is that when salespeople come to my house, they don't realize that they're talking to a professional salesperson and marketers. So it's like, I'm very judgmental, not judgmental, I'm very critical about the presentations. So he comes to the house and he starts the corporate scripted spiel. He takes out his examples and he pulls out the number one enemy of any sales presentation. And any attempt to make a sale is destroyed by one thing, in my opinion: PowerPoints. PowerPoints suck. That's why you really won't see us using PowerPoints in this challenge. We might use a couple PowerPoints in the marketing aspect of it next week, just for the sake of you guys having visuals when we're talking about Facebook ads. But we really don't like to use PowerPoints. We like to speak from the heart. The reason why PowerPoints suck is because they don't trigger emotion. You're reading off a script. So he pulls out his PowerPoint and he starts going through his whole spiel. Now, if you ask me what his presentation was about, I have no idea. Because the second he pulled out a PowerPoint, the first thing that came to my head, I was like, well, if I'm going to buy these windows, I'm going to have to sell myself, because this guy's not going to sell me. The second I saw that PowerPoint, I told myself, if indeed I'm going to purchase these windows, I'm going to have to sell them to myself. So I'm sitting here and I'm just starting to think, if I get new windows, I'll be more comfortable at home, because a lot of heat is coming into my house. I already knew that. The house is hot. My house will be 78. I'll have the AC set to 72, but it'll be 76 because there's just so much heat. I have a lot of windows, and they're massive windows in my house. I start thinking about the baby. I just had a baby, so I'm thinking like, okay, well, if I get new windows, they're going to be sturdier. They're going to be harder to break in. I'm thinking about my light bill. If I get new windows, my light bill is going to go down because the AC's. I'm thinking all these things, and by the time I finish selling myself on buying these windows, I tell the guy, I was like, listen, I'm going to buy these windows, but I have to sell myself. And he froze. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, dude, you did not tap in to any of my desires or any desire, and you didn't give me any results of buying this window. You gave me statistics. You gave me jargon on how the window is put. I don't care about how many layers are in between the front window and the back window. I can care less what material is the windows are made of. I can care less that there's an air socket that allows the window to expand to prevent crack. I can care less about any of that. I can care less. That's not why I wanted the window. I'm purchasing these windows. I am making this $9,000 purchase off of a couple things. Okay, so this is gonna lead me into the Life Force 8. The Life Force 8, guys. We started off with talking about our who. Okay, our who allows us to know exactly who we're gonna serve. Yesterday we discussed our why and we discussed our purpose. Okay, that allows us to know why we're doing it. So we figured out who we want to help, and we figured out how and why. We discussed why we want to help them. We figured out who we're going to help. We discussed why we want to help them. And today we're going to discuss how. How do you help them? How do you get your prospects' attention? And how do you convince them? There's going to be kind of a sales training as well. How do you convince them that what you have went through in life, what you've conquered in life, the giants that you've slain in life, how do you convince them that you need what they want? You tell a story. But you can't just tell a story. You have to tell a story that taps in to certain desires that are hardwired. Like, you can't avoid it, okay? So the the first, give me 1 second here. Okay. The first desire that is hardwired into every single one of us is survival. Okay. We have a natural instinct, a natural desire to survive and have a pleasant life. No one wants to have a crappy life. Like, no one wants to die. We want to live as long as we can. We want to live as happy as we can. We constantly are looking for ways to extend our lifespan. Like, we're that's people that's the whole reason why all these like weight loss products, weight loss companies, and supplement companies, that's why they're still in business. Those are $1 trillion industries. And then people who do network marketing selling supplements, I don't get it. Everyone needs this. I'm like, but you're not tapping into desire. You're selling them on the science instead of the outcome. That's a whole nother story. If you're in network marketing, we are going to be doing a challenge specifically for network marketing in the future. So the first instinct that we have hardwired is survival. The second desire that is hardwired into every human being is the satisfaction of hunger and thirst. Like, if your stomach begins to rumble and you're hungry, you can't turn that off. Like, you have to do it. If you don't eat, you're going to die. If you don't drink water for a certain amount of time, you're going to die. Like, that's not something you can ignore. You can't ignore the idea of not dying. Like, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore the idea of being hungry. You can't ignore the idea of being thirsty. You just can't. So that's something that's why restaurants exist. That's why Uber Eats, they realize that, like, oh my gosh, there's a desire to satisfy hunger and thirst, but how cool would it be if you can do it from your home? So the third desire that is hardwired into every human being is to be free from fear, pain, and danger. Okay? If I walk up to the ocean, if I walk up to a lake, okay, and I see a lake full of alligators, I'm not going to go into that lake because there is a fear of being in danger. I don't want to be in danger. I'm not going to go somewhere that's dangerous. Okay. Now, this is really powerful because, guys, a lot of you guys are in sales. Like I said, I'm kind of going to combine this kind of with a sales training. A lot of you guys are in sales, okay? And you create fear in the wrong way. You can use fear in your like as a good thing. You can use fear as a tool. But one of the things that people are afraid of is being ripped off. People are afraid of being scammed. So it's like when you come out as a hard salesperson, you're creating the wrong kind of fear. Okay. People are afraid. They don't want to be in danger. And that means physical danger, emotional danger, spiritual danger. So people want to be free from feeling fear. People want to be free from feeling danger. If you can portray your product as something that can take your customer from living in fear to living fear-free, from living pain-free, then you can tap into that desire. Like, you can get them to buy anything. Okay. So the fourth is sexual companionship. Okay. We're all adults here. And this is something that's obviously hardwired into every human being because we're meant to procreate. That's like, no one teaches us how to do that. I mean, at least I didn't. I didn't have my dad around to give me, quote unquote, the talk. So I just kind of winged it, and I'm pretty sure I did it right because now I have a baby. So that's something that's hardwired into every human being. There's a desire to have companionship, a sexual companionship. So that's something that cannot be ignored. That's what causes puberty. We naturally go into that stage where, without even thinking about it, our body begins to desire it because it is in our genetics. It is in our DNA. The fifth desire that's hardwired into every human being is physical comfort. Okay? To live in a comfortable environment. So this is something, like I mentioned Uber Eats earlier. Uber Eats are geniuses because They tapped into multiple of more than one of these desires to create a business. They tapped into the idea that people want to enjoy food and beverage. They tapped into the idea of to be free from danger and they tapped into the idea of living in a comfortable environment. Why? I get to enjoy food without getting into my car, which I can get into a car accident, and I get to get my groceries to my home while not having to leave my comfortable home. When it's raining outside, it's storming outside, and I need groceries, I open up my Instacart app, I order all my groceries, I pay for it through the app, and now I have someone bringing me my groceries. So now I have satisfied my desire to enjoy food and beverage without having to drive in the rain and get into a car accident. And I don't have to leave my home, so I get to continue being in my comfortable environment. Okay? The biggest companies in the world, the most successful companies in the world, understand the idea that they are these desires that are hardwired into every human being. If you can tap into that, you can get anyone to buy anything. Okay? So the sixth desire is that every human being has hardwired into their genetic code, into their DNA, like this is just who we are as humans, is the need to feel superior to others. Okay? This is a good thing and a bad thing. Like you want to keep pace. You want to make sure that no one's doing better than you. Okay? In this community, we're not about that. In this community, we're about working together. We're about helping each other grow. But there is a human nature in us. And if you can't, growing up, you have to kind of teach your kids how to control it, because you want them to be competitive, but you don't want them to become obsessed and wanting to be superior. But as we continue to grow as kids, we get into sports, we get into academic events, we get in. So like, no matter what you do as a child, you start doing these things, and there's just this natural thing that comes out. You know, I started playing sports since like the age of 4. I started playing coach pitch baseball. Okay. I have a twin brother. Everything we do is a competition. Everything we do is a competition. And as much as we deny it, we each have this like unnatural desire to be superior to each other. Like when I met my wife and I got engaged, my brother who was dating his girlfriend at the moment, a month later, he got engaged. I got married in August. He got married in December. I bought a car. He bought a car. I bought a house. 2 months later, he bought a house. How do you explain that? Because he wanted to keep up. He did not want his twin brother to surpass him and become superior. That's something that's in every single human being. You guys can tap into that desire to get someone to purchase your product. And like I said, that is, and like it's like Lisa Banks is absolutely right. That is healthy. Now we do, at least for me, of course, you want to teach moderation. You want to make sure that you're teaching your kids like, hey, you want to have to be like, yes, it's good to want to be above and beyond. You want to be able to be superior, but don't become obsessed where you're like stepping on people and bringing them down in order to get above them. You got to have a healthy drive to be superior, where you're in your lane, you're doing it ethically, you're doing it without causing pain. But if you can tap into the desire to want to be superior and control it and funnel that energy, my gosh, it will take you guys to the roof. And you can convey that emotion in someone else, they will give you your credit card before you finish the sentence, okay? The seventh desire that's hardwired into every human being is to care and protect for their loved ones. Okay, this was one of the desires that I tapped into when I was selling myself my windows. I was thinking about, well, I want to protect my wife and kids. So I want to get these windows because they'll be sturdier. When I purchased my Vivint security system, it was a lot of money, and it's a bill I did not really want to pay. But what sold it was I can control the temperature from my phone, which means if it's too hot or too cold, and I'm in bed, I don't have to get up to turn the temperature up. I can do it from my phone. What did that do? It tapped into the desire to live in a comfortable environment. Okay. When I saw that I can plug in a device to my wife's car and it shows me how much gas she has, it shows me when she turns on the car, when she turns it off, it shows me where she's going, it shows me if someone's bumped into it. And it's not that I'm a stalker because I really don't look at the app. But the idea that if something happens to my wife, I know exactly where she's at. If she gets into an accident, I know exactly when it happened. It notifies me. So that tapped into my desire to care and protect my wife. So when they started explaining the results, I bought. Okay. And the ninth desire is that every human being has is to gain social approval for their actions. I call that the bandwagon effect. People want to buy things that other people are buying. You know, so it's kind of like you don't want to miss the train. It's fear of missing out. It's FOMO. You know, just naturally as human beings, if there is a trend, and that's why when you go to grocery stores, they have those dang magazines, tabloids, that have the most dumbest titles. And it's just like, it's garbage. But people buy it because they're like, everyone's doing it. I'm part of everyone, so I need to do it. It's just psychology. There's a desire to be socially accepted, okay? So those are the 8 desires that that every human being has hardwired that control our buying emotions, our buying behaviors, guys. Humans buy because of emotions and they justify with logic. Okay? Whenever you make a purchase, you don't do it because it made logical sense. It's because if it was a good salesman who convinces you to buy something, it's because he triggered emotions in you and he triggered one of these desires. Okay, so how can we use these desires to convey a product or service? A couple examples of how this is used in commercial marketing. Think about Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein is a cologne. Okay, have you seen these Calvin Klein commercials where I was watching one came on the other day, and it's a black and white commercial, very, very dark and gray. It has some soft music playing, and it's basically a mom and a dad, an interracial couple, and they're having like this dialogue that they're not talking to the camera. They have scenes of the mother and the father and the mother playing with their kid, and they're just having, in the background, it's just a voiceover having a conversation with the child and just talking about how much we love you and how much we care for you, talking to the child. And it creates this like very, I'm not gonna lie, it got tingly, like, especially now that I'm a father. It's like, wow, that's really touching. That's like that it made me happy. It really did. And then at the very end, they just kind of like flash the cologne and says Calvin Klein, and the commercial ends. And before, I would have seen that commercial and been like, okay, well, but what the heck does that have to do with cologne? But now that I'm a marketer, now that I've learned the skills, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is genius, because I've learned the Life Force 8. In that commercial, they tapped into the necessity of companionship, the necessity of protecting your loved ones. Okay, the social approval, taking like it tapped into that, and they just flashed their product at the end. Okay, you can use fear to convey a product. You've seen those commercials for Lysol, and those old commercials where they'll like put someone in a room, like in one of those glass rooms, and they'll have like a massive pile of garbage, like just dirty socks and dogs and trash and rotting food. And they'll have they'll have the person sit down in the chair and be like, hey, can you describe what you smell? And they're like, oh, I smell flowers, I smell this, and I smell that. And then they take off the blindfold and they see the massive pile of garbage. So like they're right there. They're kind of like tapping into the physical comfort of like they're having the person describe the smell. The smell makes them comfortable. They're relaxed. You see the person, they're in the chair, they're relaxed. They're not in pain. They feel safe because if they're in a clean environment, so like, okay, well, I'm in a clean environment. I'm obviously in a clean room because it smells amazing here. So automatically there's like this trigger in their head. I was like, okay, well, I'm sitting in a nice clean room, which means I'm not in danger of getting any bacteria or disease because I'm in a clean room and I'm comfortable. I don't feel any pain. And then they take off the blindfold and they see all this garbage and they see all this bacteria and they're like, what the heck is going on? You know what I mean? So it's like you got to paint this imagery in your head. I was watching a documentary, watching a video, and it was talking about the history of Purell. And this guy was kind of doing a breakdown about the advertising campaign of Purell. And Purell is hand sanitizer. So if I come to you and say, hey, buy my hand sanitizer, it'll keep your hands clean. Most likely your first response is going to be, okay, well, so does soap. Soap keeps your hands clean. Some lotions keep your hands clean. Lysol wipes keep your hand clean. Why do I need your hand sanitizer? You know, so then you take the same hand sanitizer and you paint imagery, guys. The key to getting someone to understand and feel like they need your product is you have to use imagery to tap into the 8 desires. So if I have a hand sanitizer and I tell them like, hey, did you know that 99% of diseases are contracted by touching surfaces that you touch every single day? And did you know that if you come in contact with one of XYZ bacteria, is going to enter your body and it's going to start creating pain. And the worst part is that you're not going to know you have it until it's too late. And this is an extremely contagious disease. So you're going to touch your kids, you're going to touch your husband, your wife, your dog. And now they are all contracted this disease that you didn't even know you had because you didn't have clean hands. The desires that you're tapping into is that person is going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die. I don't want to hurt my loved ones. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to live in danger because my hands are dirty. So now this person is like, oh my gosh, well, how do I avoid, like, what do I do to make sure that I don't do that? This hand sanitizer will go with you. Like, this is a portable hand sanitizer that's small, so you can put it in your purse. You can take it anywhere you go, and it'll keep your hands clean. Boom, I'll buy it. I'll take it. And what's crazy is at that point, in that example, I didn't have to explain the science behind the hand sanitizer. I didn't have to explain what ingredients are in the hand sanitizer that make it safe for you. I didn't explain what active ingredients are in the hand sanitizer that kills the germs. I just painted a picture of what could happen by not having clean hands. And I induced that emotion. And then I told you that I have something that can take you from point A to point B. Okay. So this, like I said, this is just the same formula that you can use by tapping into these 8 desires. Okay. The way you sell, you know, a lot of people's like, oh, well, what does telling a story have to do with starting a business? What does telling have to, guys, people love stories. The fastest way to make the sale is telling a story, painting an image. It doesn't matter what you're selling at all. You have to be able to tell your story that will induce emotions to catch their attention. Okay. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to be explaining that there's 5 steps to the customer journey. Okay. There's a journey that you have to take your journey. You have to take your customer on a journey, because just like a phone, okay, when the phone battery is dead, when you plug it in, it doesn't just jump from 0 to 100. It goes to 25, it goes to 50, then it goes to 60, then it goes to 80, then it gets to 100. There's a process, and it takes time for you to fully charge. So it's the same thing with customers, okay? You can't just like jump in front of your customer and tell them, hey, this is my product, this is what it does, and expect them to buy on the spot. You have to get them on the journey. But in order to get their attention, you have to tell a story to grab their attention. Then once you have their attention, tell another story to get them to the first story, you got them to 25%. Then tell them another story about another obstacle that you went through. That gets them to 50%. Then you're going to tell another story that tells you how you overcame that obstacle. That's the 75%. Then the last story is then you're going to tell another story about how you felt when you overcame that obstacle. And that brings you to 80%. You haven't told them exactly what your product is. You just told them that you found a way to overcome it. There's a process. You start off with what your obstacle was. This is where you started. You began your journey. Along the way, you came to a problem. You tell a story how you got to your problem. Then you tell a story about how you found something that could possibly help you overcome that problem. You tell them that you were kind of on the fence. I didn't know if I wanted to purchase this product. I didn't know if I needed this service. Because you want to make your customers feel that you were in their shoes. Because there's some customers that are really impulsive buyers and they'll just buy. But then there's some people who want to see the analytics. They take their time like, I don't know if I need this or not. So you want to be able to relate, say, when I was introduced this possible solution, I didn't just jump in. I kind of had to think about it. But then I took a leap of faith. Okay. Then I purchased the product. I purchased the service. Or I found this concept, or I got this idea of how to overcome my obstacle. Then you tell another story about how that made the process of overcoming your obstacle really easy. And then you're going to tell a story about how you felt. What emotions did you feel as a result of using that idea, using that product, or using that service? And now you tell them this could be you, because you connect with them in every way, okay? So when you're telling your story, guys, your goal is to tap into as many desires as you can and using the power of words to create a mental movie along the way. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? So, I went to Puerto Rico last year. This is just going to be coming off the top of my head, guys, just to give you an example of a story using imagery. So last year I went to Puerto Rico with my wife. Okay. It was our 1 year anniversary. My wife is from Mexico. I'm from Puerto Rico. She had never been. And we were trying to discuss where we would go for our 1 year anniversary. Okay. I was looking at different ideas. She was looking at different ideas. But in my heart, I really wanted to go to Puerto Rico. It had been almost 10 years since I had been. So I was like, okay, I need to convince my wife to want to go to Puerto Rico for our 1 year anniversary. Okay. So at this point, I had already learned about the Life Force 8. I had already learned and studied the idea of these desires. So I was like, okay, I need to paint the most powerful, moving mental imagery in her head that's going to make her jump on that plane without thinking twice. So one night we were in bed. I was like, babe, I think that we should go to Puerto Rico for our 1 year anniversary. And she asked me, she's like, well, I know where that's from, but why should we go there? I was like, when I was a kid, I remember in my family's territory, it was what's called a finca in Spanish, our barrio, is, there was these amazing downtown streets that had the cutest mom and pop places, and you would walk in front of the stores and people were playing dominoes, and there was just happy people all the time. There was always a group of people partying for some reason. And as you're walking down the street and you hear the old men laughing, playing their dominoes, making fun of each other, using words that you shouldn't be using, you smell the coffee going through the air. And guys, and I was just like, that coffee was so good, because I remember there was this farm in the island that's in the middle of the forest, and they grow coffee, the most delectable, like you can smell the coffee from miles away. And it was like in this really secluded spot. You had to take a Jeep to get to where the coffee beans were growing. And they would import the coffee to these local bodegas. And man, when they would start brewing this fresh picked coffee, you can smell it from miles away. And you can see the kids playing, especially during this time. The weather is just perfect. Oh, and let me tell you about the beaches. The waters in the beach, there's an island called Culebra Island, and the water is like the most crisp, clean, absolutely blue. Like it literally feels like you're just slowly walking into like a bowl of melted wax. Like it's just so smooth on your skin. Like when you walk into that water, you can see out for at least 2 miles because there's not a single piece of dust or speck of dirt that interrupts the view of how far you can look into the water. Oh my goodness. And let me tell you about the shopping. I mean, they have the most colorful and vibrant shopping centers that there's always music playing and everything's really cheap too. Like everything is super affordable. Oh my gosh. And there's this one shack that's by the beach and they have the most delicious fried foods you will ever eat in your entire life. My gosh, like you hear the oil popping, you see the women, like what you know, the women are like the food is good because you see the women making them. Like you can tell that they know what they're doing in the kitchen, like they are throwing down. And there's just this warm feeling when you bite into that alcapurria. There's a warm feeling when you bite into that empanada that just you feel the guava just like melting in your mouth. And babe, there's just so much. And like within minutes after that conversation, we had our Airbnb book, we had our rental car booked, and we had our plane tickets bought to Puerto Rico. Okay. The only reason why I was able to accomplish that is because I went deep into imagery and I tapped in to multiple desires. I tapped in to the satisfaction of hunger and thirst. I tapped into the satisfaction of comfort because I'm painting an idea of being relaxed at the beach. I'm protecting, caring for my my loved ones, like just painting this image in her head that she was going to be safe, that she was going to enjoy herself. Social approval by telling her like, hey, everybody loves to go to Puerto Rico. Like if you haven't gone to Puerto Rico, then you haven't lived life. So I painted that picture of like, to her, it's like, oh my gosh, if I go throughout my life without going to Puerto Rico, then, you know, like this is not me. Like I'm gonna be like outside of the group. Okay. So when you're telling your story, guys, use the imagery and tap into the desires. And this works with no matter what product or service you sell. Nikki did an amazing job today telling her story. And she didn't even realize it, but look at the way if you guys haven't watched Nikki's video, there's like 5 of them because she was having some technical issues. But go back and watch Nikki's video. Okay. She talks about how she used to be really wealthy. She was doing really good for herself. And then she describes that they hit a wall with her industry, that her industry went down the drain and COVID. So she started here and she hit her first obstacle. Then she describes that she was homeless for a month. Okay. So now you're tapping into the desire of danger. You're tapping into desire of protection, of not dying, of survival. You're tapping into that feeling. Okay. Then she described how she found Forex and she saw that Forex was going to be her way to leave a legacy for her kid who wants to go to school, but she wants him to have a skill set that he can take with him anywhere he goes. She described that she fell in love with this network marketing company because it can teach people how to have a skill set that can go anywhere they go. So if she was telling this story to a group of people who were interested in network marketing, I guarantee you, if she says it with enthusiasm, with passion, people would buy. Why? Because that story, you're painting a picture of social approval. Everybody's doing Forex. And I'm not going to lie, Forex is a big trend right now. Like so many people are talking about Forex. Forex is a big thing right now. So she painted the picture of social approval. Okay. She painted the picture of feeling superior to others by saying, I can leave a legacy. I can be above other people by like tapping into Forex. She painted the idea of protecting your loved ones when she talked about leaving a legacy for her kid. She painted the idea of survival because now people can survive anywhere they go in the world by having a skill set that transfers internationally. Okay. She transferred the idea of physical comfort by painting the idea that Forex can give you enough money to live a comfortable life. She tapped into all of those desires telling her story. So a lot of people right now are stuck in a place where they want to give up on their business because they think that no one wants what they have. And that is not true. Guys, Amazon has become one of, if not the largest company in the world, for the simple fact that you can literally find anything on Amazon. eBay, you can find anything on eBay. Just out of curiosity, I want you guys to go one day and think about the randomest thing that you can think of and type it on eBay, and I promise you, you're going to find it. Go into Amazon and type in the most random thing, like a thing that makes no sense, or like no one would buy this. You're going to find it on Amazon. Why? Because Amazon is tapping into the idea that someone is always looking for something. No matter how stupid it is, no matter how irrational it looks, no matter how why would anybody buy that? Like, people don't understand it. Someone wants to buy it. Someone in the world has a weird obsession or a hobby. They're going to want to buy your product. So don't come and say that the reason why you haven't launched your business and the reason why you're stuck. Beginning of the next chapter in your story. Yes. If you've gone to a point where you feel like no one wants what you're offering, then you need to start figuring out what to change. Because here's a couple reasons why. If you're in a position that you feel like no one wants what you're buying, here's a couple of things that it could be. Number one, you haven't told your story correctly. Your story is dry. Your story doesn't have any emotion. Number two, you haven't told your story. You just haven't. Number three, you haven't discovered your purpose yet, or you don't know who your who is yet. Those are the four things that it could, like, if you're stuck right now and you feel like your business is a bust because you feel like no one wants what you have, those are the four reasons why. You either haven't discovered your who, you're promoting it to the wrong audience. You don't even know why you're promoting it yet. So we discussed yesterday that if you don't know your purpose, then you can't convey emotion. We're talking today about conveying emotion when you're talking about your product. But if you don't know why you're doing it, if you don't know the purpose behind it, then how can you convey an emotion? When you're trying to sell a product or a service, you have to have a plan on which emotions do I want, because you can't tap into all 8 at once. Your goal is to try to tap into as many of them as you can, but you can't tap into them all at once. So you have to come up with a strategy, okay, on what is the purpose of your product, what method do I want to use? Do I want to use the fear factor? Do I want to create a feeling of fear that makes my consumer, my prospective client, understand that if they don't buy my product or service, they're in danger? Am I going to use the mental movie route? Am I going to create a movie like Calvin Klein? Am I going to feed into their ego and tell them, like, hey, if, for instance, Rolls Royce. I've been studying this topic, and I found a commercial with a Rolls Royce and a Mercedes. Okay. And you see this guy and he's driving a Mercedes. Guys, Mercedes is a nice car. And he's chilling at the light, got his shades on, boy's looking fresh, he's feeling fly, he feels like he's on top of the world. Okay. But then this Rolls Royce pulls up next to him, blinged out. And everybody knows that if you own a Rolls Royce, you are not driving it. You pay someone to drive you. One simply does not buy a Rolls Royce to drive it yourself. Okay? That's the brand. That is the brand that Rolls Royce has painted. Okay? Rolls Royce has developed a brand, okay, that if you buy one of our cars, that means you have achieved a higher status. And since you have achieved a higher status, you need to hire a driver, because people in your status don't drive themselves around. So this Rolls Royce pulls up and you see the guy pull the shades from the window goes down, you see the leather, he's all comfortable, he has a suit, and he kind of gives the guy in the Mercedes a look, kind of tips his hat, and the Rolls Royce drives off. And then you see the guy in the Mercedes kind of like starts to wiggle, and like you can see like the weight of the world just pressing down on his shoulder because his ego just got depleted. When he pulled up to the light, he was hot stuff. I'm driving my Mercedes. But then you see the Rolls Royce came and destroyed his ego. Okay, so that's another way that ethically you can use that to get someone to understand why they need your product. This product can make you better. This product can increase your status. If you purchase my product, you're automatically graduating yourself to another status. Okay, you can transfer credibility. Okay, people, like I said, people want to be socially approved. So if you have a product or service, the fastest way to gain credibility is find someone to endorse your product. Find a social influencer in your niche and have them talk about it. You know, if I had, let's say I own a radio company and I wanted to sell like two-way radios or like radios to people, I can say, hey, buy my radios. It's really good. They work from long range, and I can give all this mumbo jumbo, and they're gonna be like, okay, it's just another radio. But if I go to my local police department and I tell them, hey, I'm going to give you guys my radios for free. I'm not going to charge you a penny for my radio. Okay. Now you can go back and say, hey, purchase my radios. These are the same radios that the local police department uses. Now people are buying your radio because the police department uses it, but you didn't make any money off of it. You gave them that radio for free, but because you gave it to them for free, now you have a name to attach to your product, and now you have credibility. It's a transfer of credibility. So a lot of you guys need to be okay with sacrificing profit in the beginning. You have to be okay with sacrificing profit. If you want to get some big names out there, find someone who's somewhat of an influencer in your niche and give them your product for free. You know, if you own a catering company, okay, if you're trying to become a caterer, find some local charities, find some local corporations and say, hey, I want to cater your next event for free. You don't have to pay me a penny. I'm going to cook the food. My team will be your waiters. We're going to clean up after, everything. No corporation is going to say no to that. Oh, you're going to cater my event for free? Bet. You can do it. Now you can go and make an ad saying, hey, we're the top catering company in the world. We recently just hosted a catering event for XYZ company. Now people are buying from you because they see, wow, you're working with big name customers or big name clients. That means you must be good. And you did it for free. So you have to sometimes be okay with sacrificing profits in order to gain credibility. Okay. So like I said, you know, you're telling your story. Okay. You're learning how to tap into these different desires to create a fire, in your prospective client's head as to why they need to buy now. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start landing the plane here. Like I said, I wanna keep this training somewhat short. Okay, so we're gonna finish this training talking about the customer journey. We've discussed the 8 desires. That every human being has. We have discussed why and how, by tapping into these different desires, we can trigger someone to purchase your product or service. Okay, we just finished discussing different ways or different reasons why people buy, or different ways companies have used these methods. Excuse me. So there's a 5-step process in our customer journey. Okay. The first step in the customer journey is pre-contemplation. That means a customer has seen your product or service somewhere on the internet. In Facebook ad terms, it's called an expression. Like they saw it. They were scrolling on their feed. They didn't stop to look at it. They didn't stop to read your ad copy. They didn't stop to watch your video. They didn't stop to read your post, but they saw it. That's pre-contemplation. Now, like, they know you exist. Okay. The second step of the customer journey is contemplation. Now, at this point, the customer has stopped to read your ad. Like, okay, well, now they're thinking like, okay, I saw that before. Now I'm seeing it again, and now I'm seeing it again. Let me see what it's about. And at this point, they're not ready to buy yet, but at least you have gotten them to stop and read what you're saying. You got them to stop and listen to your video. They're contemplating the possible idea of buying your product or service. The third step is preparation. Okay, now this person is starting to be like, okay, well, now they're doing research about your product or service. Now they're reading your reviews. Now they're checking out your website because they're preparing for the idea of a transaction. Okay, and next week we're going to be talking about social media strategy and content strategy and branding. And that's why those steps are super important, because once again, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be almost impossible to get someone to go from empty to full within seconds. The idea of sales, the idea of getting someone to purchase your product or service is just like filling up your gas tank. You know, when you go to a gas tank to put gas in your car and you start pumping, if you're like, it doesn't just fill up within seconds. You're going to be there a couple minutes because it needs to fill up. Okay, so you have to look at sales as that process. People get really bummed out because you want them to buy it immediately. Like you want to have one conversation, and at the end of that one conversation, like you want them to buy. And if they don't buy after the end of that one conversation, you give up. You have to nurture the sales process. Okay, like that's why it's good. And like I said, we're going to be talking about this next week with different Facebook and social media strategies. But you should have ads running for the people at different stages. Run an ad for someone who's in the pre-contemplation stage. Run a second ad for someone who's in the contemplation stage. Run a third ad for people in the preparation stage. Different ads for people in different stages, because now it's just like you're instead of creating just one funnel, a one pipeline for everybody to go through, now you have multiple pipelines where you're able to organize your prospects that they're only viewing content that relates to the stage they're in. There's no reason why you're making an ad for someone who is in the preparation stage. That's who you're targeting, but your ad copy, your title is addressing people in the pre-contemplation stage. It's a mixture of messages, and we're going to be talking about that next week. The fourth step in the customer journey is action. At this point, the customer has made the sale. You made the sale. You made the sale. It took you 1 day. It took you 3 days. It took you 5 days. It takes you a month, 2 months, 5 months. Guys, it's taken me up to 6 months to make a sale before. 6 months to make a sale. It took me 6 months, 2 phone calls a month. So it took me 12 conversations. 12 conversations over a 6-month period before I made the sale. And I was okay with that because I treated the sale as if I was nurturing a baby. I knew that this person was eating applesauce all his life, so he wasn't ready to eat steak. And I would have done a disservice to him if I would have expected someone who's been eating soft food all his life to eat a steak. So in my mind, I'm like, I know for a fact, believe me, I could sell water to a fish. I know that if I would have really gone in and given my best pitch, they would have bought. They would have bought. But I understood that you have to nurture your customers, that you have to take their needs into consideration, and you need to acknowledge, and you need to realize and to decipher what stage is your customer in. Because the fifth stage in the customer journey is maintenance. And once the person buys a product, what you don't want is a regretful customer. You don't want a customer that purchased your product because they felt pressure to, and now after they buy it, they're like, oh, why did I buy it? Like, if they're regretting the purchase, you didn't do a good job telling the story. You didn't do a good job using the 8 desires to create a customer journey. Instead of taking them through steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you went too hard on the desires and you took them straight to step 4. If you don't go through the steps, you're not going to have a solid business, because you're going to make a lot of money on the front end, but then on the back end, you're going to be having to give out a lot of refunds. You're going to have a lot of bad Google reviews. Guys, reviews are everything. Reviews are everything. So, you have to understand the importance of the customer journey and make sure that you're nurturing them, make sure that you're taking care of the customers. Okay. So guys, that's going to be the end of this training. Just to wrap up, we talked about the 8 desires, the 8 human desires that's hardwired into every human being. We discussed how we can portray these desires. We discussed how we can use these desires to tell a story effectively, how to connect with your people using the desires in different parts of your life to create that connection. And we finalized everything with discussing the steps of the customer journey. Okay, so tonight's homework is going to be, I want you guys to go live. And there's going to be 2 parts to this homework assignment for you guys. Number 1, write down your product or service. And I want you guys to go through, and I'm going to upload a document with the 8 desires. Okay, I'm going to upload the document. And I want you guys to go through and write down how you can convey, or how you can tap into, how your product or service can tap into every desire. So write how you can promote the lack of fear, how you can promote the tap into the survival desire, how can you type into the food and beverage desire, how can you, so take your product or service, go through each desire and tap in. You may not be able to do every single one of them, that's okay, but just try to tap in as many as you can and figure out how many desires can your product or service convey, and then start writing out your story using those desires. Start writing out your story and start preparing yourself and discussing in your head how you can start the customer journey. Part 2 of the assignment, and this is for you guys to practice this. I want you guys to go on YouTube, okay? And I want you guys to look at a couple commercials. And this is an exercise that we do with a lot of our clients to teach them the idea of marketing through desire, marketing through emotions. Look through a couple commercials. And I want you guys to go post a YouTube link of the commercial, that your favorite commercial, and in your live video, discuss what emotion you felt when you were watching that commercial. What desire did that commercial tap into while you were watching it? So that's your 2-part assignment. Number 1, write down a list of which desires your product or service can convey. Okay. And number 2, find a commercial that you really like on YouTube, post the link of the YouTube video of the commercial, and tell us what desires that YouTube video triggered in you. So that's your homework assignment. Guys, just a couple housekeeping announcements to finish off. We have our homework assignments in our units, the units tab. Please go in there. We've had a handful of people going live. We want to start creating more engagement in the group. This is for you guys to help each other, support each other, and we can create a very comfortable atmosphere. So don't forget about the units tab. In the announcements tab, there's a link for our Telegram app. The best way to get notified when we're going live is to have the Telegram app, because we're going to be sending out notifications every day, letting you know we're about to go live. And tomorrow, guys, 8:00 p.m., we're going to be back for day 5 of training. Tomorrow, we have a very special guest speaker. Her name is Kate Donovan. She is a professional entrepreneurial burnout coach, and she's going to be discussing how you guys can go about beginning the process of entrepreneurship, your journey, without burning yourself out. So it's going to be a very informative day of training tomorrow, and it's going to conclude our mindset week. We hope that you guys have enjoyed the trainings that we've done so far. If you haven't been able to watch all of them, go back and watch the replays, get your mind right, so that way next week we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of the marketing. So I hope you guys have a blessed night. Thank you guys for joining in. Don't forget to go live and do the homework assignments, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 8:00. Take care. God bless.